Okay, what a game, huh? What a game. What a comeback. What a gut call. Um, or gut check. Um, Vikings win in Seattle for the first time since 2006. Which, do the math, it's 18 years. It was the first year of Brad Childress. It was the Chester Taylor 90-yard run game. We were rolling out the rotting corpse of Brad Johnson as our quarterback. Um, I'm assuming it was Hasselbeck on the other side. That was kind of the high watermark of that season. Um, we wanted to go to 4-2, and then the thing completely fell apart after that. And I don't know how many we lost there in a row since. It's a lot because it seemed like we played there every single year for like a decade. It was comical. Meanwhile, we would almost never play them here, um, and we lost them all, and many of them in real gut punch fashion. But we got it done. The curse is over. The Seattle curse is over. It was even raining, and we still managed to win. So, um, obviously, the everything that happened in the final few minutes, that gets the focus. I mean, obviously, I already have done live reaction to the final few minutes and everything that happened. The lead up to that, I mean, you know, I knew they were going to. I was very worried about when we talked about the elements, and then obviously we were kind of hoping we weren't even going to have to face Geno Smith because he got hurt against the Packers last week and missed most of that game. Um, so but he was out there. You know, the elements just you never know. It's kind of maybe we're due for a loss, and then of course the whole Seattle curse thing. But they come right out, go right down the field, get that fantastic catch from Hawkinson on the fourth down, um, just inside the 50, um, and they get the touchdown to Addison. Like perfect drive, took like half the quarter, and we're up 7-0. Boom, just like that. It's like okay, nice statement type of drive. And then the offense kind of would sputter a little bit, but the defense was started out pretty okay. Um, then we get the set. Then they were Seattle's offense was very hot and cold, especially early in the game. We'd stopped them one or two drives, and then they go down and get touchdowns. Like we had never played defense before. Like we didn't have any idea what we were doing. They go down and score. I think that was the one where Gilmore got beat pretty bad. So tie game. But then we go back, we get the touchdown to Jefferson on that fantastic. I think it was a third down throw. Um, just a fantastic ball placement by Darnold. Great catch by Jefferson. And the most, I'm still, my head is still spinning over the absurdity of this. He got a taunting penalty for doing the gritty dance. He's been doing the gritty. I mean, I think he was doing it in college, right? He did it even before he was in the pros. He's done it how many times now? Like I don't know how many career touchdowns he's got. But he's got a lot, and he's done the gritty after just about every single one of them. And he got a and they threw a damn flag on him for it. It was ridiculous. It didn't hurt us because it just moved the extra point back and we still got it. But I mean, it was just ridiculous. You know, and then we get the pick. One of our rare pressures on Geno. We get the pick. Dallas Turner, first career interception. Um, we don't do a thing on offense, but Riker bangs it through, and it's 17-7, gives us a little breathing room. We had a chance to just really just dagger this game early. We didn't have to get into a situation where we were sweating out, but what we just never can do, we never can manage to do that. We got the ball late in the first half. It's one of those ones where it's like it's under 2 minutes. We get the ball. Your number one priority in those situations, and people don't like this because the people are just like, well, why are we always trying to push the ball down the field and score? Well, because sometimes then you end up giving the ball back to the other team. We end up going 3 and out, a couple incompletions, and a catch that pushed out of bounds. So we take no time off the clock. Like the number one priority in that situation, always, you know, you know, especially when you're in, especially when you're leading, is you don't give the other team the football back where they can do anything. Like if they get the ball back at all, it's just for a kneel down. Like there's nothing they can do. But we gave them back plenty of time, and then it was what was it like 5 plays? They just go right down field on us, get a touchdown, and a game that we could have daggered maybe with a little better, a little better management of the clock, management of the game, and it's 17-14. So, like I thought they played overall a fairly decent half. Like they, when they bothered to run the ball, they were running pretty well. Darnold, offensive line was struggling, but Darnold was doing all right. Um, but then the third quarter was kind of ugly too. Like, we let them got right down the field to start the third quarter and get a field goal. So it's like, they get 10 points in between us having a meaningful offensive snap. It's like it could have been like 27, 24-7. Instead, it's 17-17. But we kind of get back into things, get the field goal, get up. Like it was obvious it was going to be a grind and one we were going to have to sweat out the whole way. Um, but that, I mean, like I got real, like, like I said, when the Vikings have risen to a point now where this isn't just like, like maybe even some past years where it's like it's the drama and the nervousness of are they going to maybe be able to get into the playoffs, and maybe maybe do something. No, it's they're again they control their destiny for the 1 seed. They have a chance to be home for the playoffs and maybe hosting an NFC Championship game for only the second time in like 50 years. Like like the maybe they don't feel the pressure. I've as a fan I feel the pressure on that. So when it looks like we're pissing this away when they go down when they're driving to go get that touchdown to go up 24-20 and we're just getting destroyed. We're giving up wide open passes, not tackling, giving up some big runs. I'm just like we're just giving it all away. Like we've finally fought the whole season to get to this point, and we're just going to give it all away, and we're going to end up going on the road, in the playoffs. Not that we can't win some, on the road maybe, but it's just like we're just giving it away. I mean, this was one of the worst, really one of the worst, at times anyway, performances by this defense all year. Certainly as far as the tackling. I mean, we were not tackling well at all. Maybe there was some slipperiness with. I mean, I know it was raining at the start of the game. I don't know if it kept raining the whole game, but like we just weren't tackling. We're wrapping them up, giving them extra yards every play. Wide open passes. We weren't pressuring Geno Smith. It was a very, very frustrating game to watch on that end. And then at the very end here, we're giving up this long, easy drive for them to go and put one in the end zone and go up 24-20. Now I didn't give up because Sam Darnold has gotten to this point where in the clutch moments he's come up big. More often than not this year. Like not just the, hey, go win the game like the Arizona game or like this one, where you're trailing in the fourth quarter. But some of those drives where you need the drive to secure the win, and it didn't work out all the time. We'd already have the number 1 seed all but locked up if that had happened because we couldn't quite do it against Detroit. We were like one completion away from doing it against Detroit. And obviously it didn't work out in the Rams game, but hey, if they called the face mask pull in that game, who knows what might have happened. I didn't see too much of the post game. I saw the guy who got penalized for the face mask grab today on Darnold bitching about how it was a bullshit call. Like the replay showed very clearly he grabbed the face mask. I don't know what the argument is. Like don't grab the face mask. Maybe he thought that because it's Darnold you can just do it. But I wasn't totally without hope, because Darnold has kind of gotten to a point this season now where, yes, 2 years ago where Kirk got, where if you've got a chance late with this guy, I have the confidence, the belief that he's going to do it. I maybe he doesn't do it without the face mask grab, but hey, you know what? We were owed one. We were owed one after them missing it back in LA. You know, and obviously that wasn't much of a drive. It was a very short drive. Like it was like one first down and then that fantastic deep shot to Jefferson. Like you know, obviously I think ideally you probably would like to eat the whole 4 minutes or whatever, but I suppose you got a chance to score. Let's go score. Um, and of course and then we're giving it right back. They're going down the field for a while. Um, we got them on a you know into a long yardage situation, and I was glad that they went for the field goal. Because I was worried it was like a fourth and what was that, like a 4th and 10, something in that range. I was like, well, if they could, if they go for that, they could run out the clock even and either kick a field goal still or get a touchdown, and then we're screwed, or we're going to overtime. So I was very very happy when they went for the field goal, even if he'd hit it. Very glad he didn't hit it. I mean, it was close. Like it every Vikings fan has seen this over the years, not just the drama with our own kickers, but how every other opponent kicker, seems to turn into like the greatest kicker in the history of the National Football League every time that they're kicking against us. So I would not have been that shocked if that kick that Seattle took from 60 had gone in, and it was relatively close. But and I thought I thought they managed that pretty well at the end. Burn off the timeouts and took a safe chance to ice the game, and obviously then, hey, Gino gave us one more in the season of giving. He gave us one more, and Theo Jackson gets the pick. Theo Jackson, who, he's been around here, a couple years now, but he hasn't played much. I think, he's way down on the depth chart, and he only was really in this game because Harrison Smith was like a game time decision, inactive, missing his first game in like 2 years with a foot injury. So, but I was glad we got that because we dropped a couple earlier in the game. We did get obviously the Turner one, but then Blake Cashman had one. He was just wide. It was like it was thrown on purpose to him. He was so wide open, and that might have even made for a decent return. Just dropped it. Shaq Griffin dropped one near the goal line at one point, and that gave Seattle a field goal because they were able to then kick a field goal. But I mean, we could have ended up with quite a few interceptions in this game. But overall, I mean, I think like I was, the way they won it and the way they pulled it out. And again, maybe it gets to a point where it's like nitpicking. I don't expect this team to be perfect. They're not perfect. They're never going to be perfect. But there were some problems in this game. The defense was pretty bad at points. When they did make obviously a couple turnovers. They made a couple stops. Gink had a big sack at one point. But they really didn't pressure Geno Smith much in the entire game. It was kind of the worst of everything for some of those drives where we're getting no pressure, but then we're also not covering anybody, and then we're not tackling. It was definitely the worst tackling game of the year. Now maybe that had something to do with everything being wet, but it was a very poor performance, I thought, by the defense. And I don't know if that's a championship defense that we have, but on the other hand, there really aren't like dominant defenses really in the whole NFL right now, but certainly not in the NFC. I mean, I don't even know who like the top ranked defense is in the NFC. I mean, you have some decent defenses, but I don't think there are any defenses in the NFC that are just dominating. So maybe it doesn't matter as much as it matters in other years where you feel like you always have to have a certain level of defense to have a chance. But maybe just being a pretty good defense, which I think we have a pretty good defense, not infallible. Um, maybe that's all we need. I certainly think we need a better defensive performance than what we got in this game, though. You know, and I do think Flores. I mean, Flores is the man, but I do think he does have a tendency to kind of stick with things that aren't working as far as blitzes. Like when the blitzes aren't working, he kind of doesn't go away from them fast enough sometimes. I think he did then in the second half at points, and were able to fare a little better. But you know, and obviously we did have guys out. It's not like we had our full unit out there. Harrison Smith was out. Jalen Redmond was out. We're still missing Ivan Pace. I think he'll be back. I know. I think he'll be back with certainly by the playoffs, if not regular season. Um, but you know, at least we still are able to offset it with turnovers. We're the only team in the NFL that's forced a turnover in every single game this year. Um, and many of the games we force multiple turnovers. Like that's very very huge when you can kind of offset those things. But defense was not very good. Offense, you know, offensive line was kind of iffy at times. Like Darnold was getting a lot of pressure. I think, especially early, Darnold was doing some of that stuff that Darnold does from time to time, where he's really holding on to that ball way too long. Um, they usually figure that out though. Like they usually adjust to that and start getting having some quicker stuff. Obviously Jefferson had a big game uh, with 2 touchdowns and season high in yards. Big game. We had a couple at times some very big conversions. Obviously the Hawkinson fourth down catch on that first drive was a tremendous play. That might be the most acrobatic catch I've ever seen from him. Um, but Addison had a couple big ones. Not like a big game from Hawkinson. Actually, we had some drops. That was another thing. Was we had a few. We didn't just drop a couple picks. We had a couple pretty big drops on offense too. There was like a big one. There was one of the very big third down drop by Addison early that kind of took our momentum out for a while. Um, but I think obviously, and Darnold was imperfect, but I mean he ended up with like about what was it, like 240 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, and again, he seems to elevate his play in the more clutch late moments, which sure I'd love it for him to do that all game long, but that's not realistic. It's like no quarterback does that. But if you can play your best football in the biggest moments, again, I've completely come to the side of we have to pay Sam Darnold. And I'm not saying we pay him whatever he wants. I'm not saying you pay him, $60 million a year. um, but I think it's more of a discussion than a lot of people want to believe. Um, and just the way his play is a center, and of course he had another turnover-free game. He did get away with maybe one or two throws in the game, including one on that late drive with the game-winning touchdown. But he's done okay. Even like some of the drives that don't work out, like even that last drive, we were trying to run up the clock, and just does a smart thing. Like the play's not there, just go down, let the clock run. Like it's there's more to quarterback play than just throwing touchdowns every throw. I mean there's not that he's a game manager, but I mean there's just the managing of the game, and I think he's you know he's showing that he's very good at that, and then he can rise up in clutch moments, and maybe he could run a little more. I mean there are a couple plays in this game where I thought maybe he could have taken off and run. But he he's fucking tough. I mean, he threw the game-winning touchdown pass one play after having his ankle rolled up on, on on the on the face mask grab that was a face mask grab. Sorry, guy from Seattle. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like you have a guy like that who can elevate, and I know like he hasn't. Like I know, obviously the argument is, oh, he's never done it in the playoffs. Well, of course he's never done it in the playoffs. Of course he's never done it. If he had ever done it in the playoffs, he'd be on another team right now because the other team would have probably kept him. But like this wasn't a playoff game, but this was a huge game. This was a very important game. I mean, the gap between maybe getting the 1 seed and maybe being stuck with the 5 seed and having to play entirely on the road in the playoffs. Hopefully, I mean, I hope they change the damn rules on that. I mean, if since it involves the Vikings, they'll maybe change the rules after the fact. But that seems to happen a lot with us. But it's absurd that we're sitting here 13-2 with 2 weeks to go, and we have no certainty whatsoever that we're going to have a single home playoff game. It's ridiculous. Meanwhile, you got a couple teams, with Tampa and the Rams are leading their divisions. They each have 9 wins, and they're, you know, those teams, if they win the divisions, they're guaranteed a home game. And it's almost certain that both those teams are going to be hosting teams with better records, because the Packers are going to probably end up with a better record. Washington could end up with a better record. Maybe this will be the year that this changes, because I think it's, you can let those division winners in, that's fine, but seed according to record, because it's ridiculous. Because I mean, I think the Packers are sitting there with 10 wins. They're going to have 11 after they beat the Saints, and I'm guessing they probably play the Bears last week of the season. They must, because we're playing Lions, so they're going to end up with minimum 12 wins, hopefully not 13, because hopefully we kick their ass. But so you're going to have 3 teams in this division with 12 plus wins, and 2 of them aren't going to get a home game in the playoffs. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, like, I have that I just have that belief in Darnold now. Like, if this happens again, if this happens against the Packers next week, and we need a late drive, I'm gonna have the confidence that he's gonna do it. It's similar to 2 years ago with Kirk, where it's almost like week after week we're getting that drive that, and most of the time it worked out, and it's not always going to work out. There's going to be, hopefully there's not like something in the playoffs where we need the late drive from Darnold, and that's when it doesn't work. But, I think this team, they can play at home. And not that they haven't played well on the road. I mean, they've only lost 1 road game all year. I mean, they can play on the road, but it's such an advantage to be at home. I really think they could. I really think, I mean, you have to say it. You have to say that they're a contender. I mean, it's ridiculous to say that they're not a contender. They can do this. But it's such an advantage to get the home games. So that's why this wasn't a playoff game. But the drive had the importance of, I mean, it had playoff level importance, and it had playoff level importance for Seattle, because Seattle desperately needed this game because the Rams won today. Seattle's now a game back of the Rams, and they play each other at the end of the season. But Seattle might not even still have a chance by the end of this. By then, I think they actually play the Bears next week, so that's probably a guaranteed win for Seattle. Nice job by the Bears today. Thanks for helping us in the slightest. So they're, and obviously with Washington winning, like, the wild card opening is limited, so it's like it's division or nothing for Seattle. So we might have killed Seattle's season today by beating them. So like, they were desperate. Like, this wasn't like playing the Bears or somebody like that's just out of it. Like, this was a pretty good team that's playing for a lot, and in a place we hadn't won in 18 years. I mean, it's just that I mean, we've kind of solved the House of Horrors thing with Soldier Field, but now now it's Lumen Field. I don't know when they changed that, but whatever it used to be called. I know it wasn't called Lumen Field last time we won there. Um, you know, it's like maybe we've broken another hex involving an opposing stadium. Let's see, what are we at here? We are at 25 minutes. I am talking way too long. I don't have much more to talk about with the game. I mean, I thought the officiating was kind of shitty. They were calling some bullshit. I still don't know. They didn't show a replay. When they ran that fake punt. Seattle ran that fake punt, and it didn't end up leading to anything. Didn't end up leading to any points because I think we got them 3-and-out right after that. But like we stuffed them. I'm almost positive we stuffed them on the fake punt. It was just like a run up the middle. I'm almost positive we stuffed them, but they never bothered to review it. They never bothered to show replays. And we got hit with a couple of other ticky tack things. I thought, whatever happened to passes being ruled uncatchable just never happens anymore. You could throw it 50 yards out of bounds and they'll say it's pass interference even if the ball's uncatchable. And then of course that Jefferson thing. I'm never going to get over how they called that. They called a taunting penalty on Justin Jefferson for doing the gritty dance, which he is known for. Like he's done it forever. He's going to keep doing it. He did something different. I forget what he did after the second touchdown there late, but it wasn't the gritty. He's probably scared to do it in front of that officiating crew because they'll rule it a taunt. It's like that's just absolutely ridiculous that they called that. And I know there were some other calls. I mean, there was one, I forget what. It was definitely in the second half where it was just the most blatant hold on one of our edge rushers that you've ever seen, and they don't call it. I mean, usually you can't see that like on live thing. I'm watching the play live. It's always on replay, but I'm screaming, "Call the hold!" And they don't call it. So I didn't think the officiating was very good in this game, but that seems to be kind of the same every week. So, but we got the win, gutty win. Another feather in the cap of Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell. I mean, if Kevin O'Connell doesn't win Coach of the Year, I just forget it. If they give it to Dan Campbell, who everybody picked to go to the Super Bowl this year, and they're going to finish at most maybe one game ahead of us, like give me a break. Like spare me your bullshit about Dan Campbell. Kevin O'Connell is the Coach of the Year because he is 13-2 with a team that nobody thought would win. Most people didn't think would win half that many games this year. And they still could go 15-2. Could be the second 15-win team in the history of the franchise. And absurdly, we could go 14-3 and not get a home playoff game. It's just gross. Normally normally you have this kind of record. You're just sitting back waiting to see who you're going to host in your first playoff game. Not are you even going to host anybody. But Detroit won today against the Bears very easily. But Philly lost in a hell of a game. They lost, they lost Jalen Hurts to a concussion, and then Washington came back on them late, got game-winning touchdown with like 10 seconds left, beat them. So they're knocked back to 3 losses. So the 1 seed now really is just Vikings Lions. It's one of those two. And as long as the Vikings win next week, they'll be playing for it in week 18, and that could be the Sunday night game. That could be the last game of the regular season. And I mean, who thought it? Who thought it could happen? Detroit having their greatest season ever, and here we are, throwing out Sam Darnold on a bridge year, and we're doing what we're doing. That's why I'm sorry, Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear any bullshit about anybody else. There's no other team. Every year that award is given to a team that has exceeded the expectations most. And who's exceeded the expectations more than the Vikings this year? Nobody. There's no argument. I'm sorry. Maybe if the Lions had gone undefeated, maybe. I don't want to hear, they got all these injuries. Well, they already had this record before they had most of these injuries, so I don't want to hear about it. It's Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year. Darnold ain't MVP. He won't win MVP, but he might be top five. Um, but so yeah, so that's where we stand now. We're 13-2, keep the pace for everything, and now it's the Packers next week, which is a nooner. Um, they'll be on a short week for whatever that's worth. I don't know if that really ever matters anymore, but you know we're gonna have to play good. We're gonna have to play better than we did this game on defense. Certainly, I mean, Geno Smith's had a pretty good year, but he's had this career revival in Seattle, but he's not. Jordan Love could light us up worse than that. So, and we all saw it in the second half earlier this year. So we're gonna have to play a lot better. We can't leave points out there. You know can't dick around. I mean you know they tend to have these slow starts in some of these games. They can't do it next week. You know I'm sure it's still going to be a mostly Vikings crowd at US Bank Stadium. There's always a lot of Packer fans, but um, you know it's all right there for them because I do think they can go into Week 18 in Detroit and win. Because I mean, like they'll score on us, but we can score on them, and and if we do get to that point where that's for the whole thing, all of the pressure is on Detroit, all of it. There's no pressure on the Vikings. We're already basically playing with house money, but I mean it's hard to make that argument maybe when we're looking at a situation where we could go to this fucking Super Bowl. Um, so I've been talking way too long. Hopefully anyone who actually bothers to watch this is watching it on increased speed, so they don't have to listen to me for 30 minutes. So yeah, really really exciting win, really impressive gutty performance, and we beat the Seattle curse. It's nice. I don't know. Who knows what the venue is that's been the longest we've won in now, but at least it ain't Seattle anymore. We beat them, and we'll hopefully get some guys back, more guys back for next week. And I don't think we had any really injuries today, other than Darnold had the ankle thing late, but then he threw the game-winning touchdown pass on the next play. So maybe we need to do that every week. But we'll get some guys back, and we'll take on the Packers, and hopefully we'll kick their ass.